The twin suns of Veltrax Prime burned overhead, casting long shadows across the blood-stained sands of the royal arena. 1,000 voices roared from the crowd, alien nobles and warriors cheering with sharp teeth and glowing eyes. But Marcus, how just a human soldier stood alone, facing death. He wasn't supposed to be here. His mission had been simple: get in, rescue the hostages, get out. But things went wrong, very wrong. His entire squad was captured. And the queen of the Zelari Empire had made him a deal: fight their strongest champion in a trial by combat. And if he won, his people would be released. If he lost, his body would be fed to the beasts below the arena floor. The metal gates across the sand groaned open, and out came the champion Korvac. A living mountain of armored muscle, nearly 8 feet tall. His skin was thick and gray like stone, and his arms were covered in ceremonial blades. Each step he took made the ground shake. Marcus tightened his grip on the short blade they gave him, and no armor, no shield, nothing fancy, just him, and a weapon barely longer than his forearm. His heart pounded, but his eyes stayed calm. This wasn't his first battle, but it might be. His last. The crowd screamed in a language Marcus didn't understand, but their hunger for blood was clear. He glanced up and saw a royal balcony high above. 3 women stood there, tall, elegant, and alien. Each one was dressed in flowing silks marked with the sigil of the fallen champion. Their eyes locked on him. He didn't know it yet, but they were his future. If he lived, the gong sounded, and Korvac charged like a war beast. Marcus dodged left, barely missing the curved blade that sliced the air. Sand flew around them as the fight began. Korvac struck again and again, his strength almost superhuman. But Marcus used speed, precision, and something Korvac lacked: human unpredictability. He rolled, ducked, and stabbed. Small cuts opened on Korvac's side. Then more, then blood. The crowd grew silent. Minutes passed like hours, until finally Marcus leaped onto the champion's back, drove his blade deep into the joint of the shoulder, and twisted hard. Korvac let out a roar and dropped to one knee. One more move, one final strike, with a powerful thrust. Marcus jammed the blade into the base of the neck just beneath the armored plating. The champion collapsed, face first. The arena was dead silent. Then an explosion of noise, cheers, screams, disbelief. The human had won. The queen stood, her face unreadable. Then she raised her hand. A voice echoed through the arena from a glowing orb beside her. By the law of blood victory, the warrior who defeats the champion must claim his titles and his mates. Marcus blinked. Wait, what? The orb translated again. You are now bound to the champion's bonded consorts, Soraya, Nyla, and Veltra. His eyes went back to the balcony. The 3 women stared at him with different expressions, one with anger, one with curiosity, and one with fear. Marcus wasn't ready for this. He didn't come to marry anyone. He came to survive. But the law didn't care what a human wanted. As the guards came to escort him to the royal quarters, Marcus muttered under his breath, I just wanted to save my team, not end up with 3 alien wives and somewhere in the royal tower. A hidden pair of eyes watched him with interest. The game had only just begun. Marcus sat in a chamber bigger than any place he'd ever seen. Walls of crystal shimmered blue and purple. Soft lights floated in the air like fireflies, alien servants. Entered silently, laying food he couldn't name on gold plates. But Marcus didn't care about any of it. He stared at the doors across the room, the doors where they would come in. The 3 alien women. He was supposed to claim them now. Whatever that meant in this strange empire, he didn't want this, didn't ask for it. He just wanted to make sure his people were safe. But the queen had made it clear, backing out now would break the law. And breaking Zelari law meant death, not just for him, but maybe for the 3 women too. The doors opened. Marcus stood quickly. His heart pounded harder than it had in the arena. Zariah stepped in first. Her skin was a deep bronze gold. Her hair like glowing lava. She wore armor over silk, and her eyes were full of fire. She didn't bow or smile. Instead, she walked past him without a word, stopping at the window. Then came Nyla. She was smaller, quieter, with gray skin and silver patterns that moved slowly across her arms. Her eyes studied everything, especially Marcus. She gave a nod, but said nothing. Last came Veltra, taller than the others. Dressed in pure white, her steps were slow. Graceful, her eyes met Marcus's, and he felt something strange. Not fear, not hate, just understanding. No one spoke for a long moment. The room felt heavy. Finally, Zariah turned, her voice sharp. "Let's make something clear. Human, we did not ask for this." Marcus nodded. "Neither did I." She laughed bitterly. "Then we agree on something." Veltra walked closer, her tone calm but serious. "You do not understand the danger if you reject us publicly. We'll be declared unbonded property. The court will give us to whoever offers the highest price." "That's slavery," Marcus said, his voice tight. "That's Valtrox." Nyla whispered from the shadows. Marcus looked between them. "And if I accept this, what happens?" "You become one of us," Veltra said, "husband of 3, and heir to a bloodline that half the court wants to erase." Marcus felt trapped all over again, but not by weapons or walls, by people, by rules, by unwanted hearts on a line. Suddenly, a soft chime rang through the chamber. A voice from nowhere echoed. "The Queen Mother requests progress. The first ritual must begin by nightfall." Zariah clenched her jaw. "You have no idea what that means, do you?" "No," Marcus said honestly. Veltra stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper now. "Then you'll need to choose one of us by sunset. Or they will choose for you." Nyla walked past him slowly, brushing his shoulder with her fingertips. Not by accident. Her words were soft, chilling. "Pick carefully, human. One of us may try to save you, another may try to kill you." Then they all left as silently as they had arrived. Marcus stood there alone again, but now the room felt colder. Not from fear, but from the weight of 3 unknown hearts, and the ticking sound of time running out. Somewhere far above the tower, the arena was over, but the real trial had just begun. The door slammed shut behind him, but Marcus didn't notice. His chest was bleeding. Not from a weapon, but from a message, scrawled into his bedding with something sharp. "You are being watched." One of us lied. He hadn't slept, not even a minute. The palace lights never dimmed, and the strange humming from the walls never stopped. He'd spent the night pacing, trying to understand what game he was caught in. The arena was simple: kill or be killed. This was something else. The door opened again before he could hide the blood-stained cloth. Nyla stepped in, wearing something new, less formal, darker, like a shadow in motion. She walked slowly, her eyes watching everything, including his hand. Gripping the cloth. "You found it?" she said quietly. "You wrote it?" he asked. She tilted her head. "Would you believe me if I said no?" Marcus didn't answer. He watched her sit down across from him. Folding her legs neatly, she looked dangerous, but not in the same way as the champion he killed. Her danger came in silence, in words not spoken, in movements that didn't match. Her words, "I'm not here to threaten you," she said. "I came to warn you. The court wants a reason to strip you of protection. If you don't choose one of us by the 4th moonrise, they will claim you broke the bond agreement and execute you as a liar to sacred law. Then tell me which one of you is playing games." He said, "Because someone wants me dead, and I don't think it's the queen." Nyla stared at him for a long moment. then reached into her robe and pulled out a tiny, glowing cube. She rolled it across the floor to him. Marcus caught it play. "That when you're alone," she whispered, "but don't tell the others. Especially Veltra." Before he could ask more, she was already gone. Her scent, a cold metallic sweetness, still lingered in the room. That evening, Marcus waited until the lights dimmed. He activated the cube and watched as a tiny projection appeared a recording. It was Veltra, speaking to a masked figure in the shadows. "If he chooses Zariah, the blood circle will honor the old pact. But if he chooses me, the throne becomes mine. Do you understand?" Marcus froze. The projection ended. He now understood something important. This wasn't about marriage. It was about power, control, ancient oaths, and royal games. He wasn't a husband here. He was a throne key, a weapon that didn't even know. It was loaded, and maybe already aimed. There was a quiet knock at the door. A soft voice followed. "Marcus, it's me, Zariah. May I come in?" He stared at the door, hands still clutching the cube. His heart beat louder than the hum in the walls. He didn't know who to trust anymore. But the moment he opened that door, he knew whatever happened next would decide who lived and who didn't. Marcus didn't open the door. Not at first. He stood there, hand frozen on the handle, mind racing. Zariah was bold, unpredictable. But now, after hearing Veltra's secret deal in the recording, he couldn't afford another mistake. Still, he couldn't stay silent forever. "Come in," he said quietly. Zariah stepped inside, her eyes sharp as ever. But there was no flame in her voice this time, just something colder, almost cautious. She didn't wear armor now, only a deep crimson robe tied at her waist. But her posture said she was still ready to fight if she had to. "You haven't chosen," she said. "I didn't know I had to pick a side in a war one didn't start." He replied. She didn't laugh, didn't blink. She stepped closer instead, until she stood just a few feet from him. Her voice lowered. "Then let me tell you the truth before you choose wrong." Zariah moved to the corner of the room, pulled back a curtain, and tapped a section of the wall. It shifted with a soft click, revealing a narrow staircase behind it. "Come, quickly." Marcus hesitated, then followed. Every step down that tight spiral was colder, darker. When they reached the bottom, they stood in a hidden chamber filled with dusty banners, old weapons, and holographic scrolls glowing faintly. "This," she said, pointing to a symbol on the wall, "is the mark of the blood circle, the old warrior clan that served the first Zelari queens. We were loyal until the throne betrayed us. My marriage to Korvac was punishment. I was forced to wear the title of a wife, but never touched, never chosen." She turned to face him, her eyes filled with something deeper than anger. "When you killed him, you broke more than a tradition. You cracked open the shell they trapped us in. But now, Veltra wants to wear the crown herself, and she used you to do it." Marcus felt his breath catch. "And Nyla, she wants freedom, same as me," Zariah said, "but she doesn't trust me. She doesn't trust anyone. You were supposed to be a tool, Marcus, a symbol they could bend to gain power. They didn't expect you to fight like you did, and they sure didn't expect you to survive." He stared at the banner glowing faintly beside her, a sword crossing a pair of open wings. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I'm not asking for a throne," she said. "I'm asking you to make a real choice, not because of law or fear, but because you see who we are, who I am. Not a gift, not a wife, but a soldier like you, trapped in someone else's war." For a long time, neither of them spoke. The hum of hidden power vibrated through the walls, and above them, somewhere in the palace, the court prepared for the bonding ceremony. Marcus finally broke the silence. "If I choose you, what happens next?" Zariah didn't smile, but her voice held strength. "Then we fight back together."
It
When they climbed the stairs again, the night sky outside had turned deep violet. The stars of Veltrax shone brightly. But danger still hung heavy in the air. And Marcus knew one thing for certain. He wasn't just choosing a wife. He was choosing a side in a hidden war that had waited years for a spark. And he was that spark now? The night air was thick with silence, but inside Marcus's chest, everything screamed. The walls around him glowed softly with royal energy. Guards passed outside his chamber in pairs, armored and armed, and the first ceremony bell echoed through the halls of the palace like a funeral song. He had less than an hour. The Queen Mother had spoken. He must choose one bride tonight, or the court would do it for him, and if that happened, all three women would lose their status, their rights, and maybe their lives. Marcus stood near the open balcony, staring out into the twin moons. His fingers traced the hilt of the ceremonial blade he'd been given. Not for war but for ritual. Even that felt wrong. Cold. As if his life wasn't his anymore. Then a quiet knock. He turned, expecting a guard, but it was Veltra. Standing in a gown that shimmered like liquid pearl, her silver hair tied behind her. Her golden eyes stared at him like he already belonged. To her, there was no hate in them, not even warmth, just certainty. You waited long enough, she said calmly, stepping inside without permission. Do you know what you're going to do? Marcus didn't answer. She walked closer, slow and graceful, like a ruler visiting her future kingdom. Her fingers reached up to touch the side of his face, soft and cold. You're not a fool, Marcus, she whispered. You've seen how broken this empire is. It needs a new symbol, not just a hero, but a consort, a mate, someone they all fear and respect. He pulled away. You mean a puppet? She didn't flinch. Call it what you like, but together we can rule this galaxy. Your strength and my bloodline, it would change everything. Behind her words, he heard its ambition. Hunger, calculation, not passion, not love. Not even survival, just power. Suddenly, the door slammed open. Zarya stormed in, her braid loose, her breath sharp. She wore no gun, only the simple leather armor of her warrior past. Her eyes locked with Veltra's. Get away from him, Veltra smiled. You're late. I'm not here to play, Zarya snapped. He knows what's real now. Veltra turned to Marcus with a tilt of her head. Is that true? Marcus didn't speak. Not yet. His mind was racing. One woman offered power. The other offered war, but both wanted something from him. And somewhere in this chaos, he had forgotten something. What did he want? Suddenly, behind them, another voice spoke, quiet but cutting through the room like a knife. None of you should decide for him. Nyla stood in the doorway, her robes dark, her face unreadable. Let the human speak for himself. He's not a token, not a prize. He bled in the sand while we watched from above. The room went still. All three women now faced him. Their lives, their hopes, their secrets resting in his next breath. Marcus stepped forward, laying the ceremonial blade on the table. I don't know what kind of man I was before the arena, he said, but I know who I am now. I'm someone who won't let three women suffer because of a game. I'm choosing tonight, not because the law says so, but because someone has to break the chain, and it might as well be me. He turned to Zarya and reached out his hand. The moment she placed her fingers in his, the tower lights dimmed, and the second bell rang out across the city, louder than before, echoing into the night sky like thunder. The court had its answer, but the empire was only just beginning to react. The throne hall burned with light as the Queen Mother summoned them all. Red banners draped the walls like blood. Rows of armored guards lined the steps, and high above them, alien nobles stared with cold, golden eyes. The trial had been called not a trial of law, but of obedience, of control. Marcus walked at the center, wearing no crown, no armor, just the deep green cloak of the consort. Zariah walked at his right, Nyla at his left. Both stood proud, unchained. Their presence alone was rebellion. Veltra stood beside the Queen Mother, her eyes triumphant. She smiled like the war was already over, and Marcus was just another crushed name under royal boots. The Queen Mother's voice echoed across the chamber. "You, Marcus Hale of Earth, stand accused of breaking sacred order, refusing the throne's command, and corrupting royal bonds. How do you answer?" Marcus stepped forward, not in fear, but in fire. "You told me I won the right to choose, but only if I chose what you wanted. You speak boldly for one so low." She said coldly. "I'm not low," he said. "I'm human," murmurs ran through the nobles. Some laughed, others frowned. But Veltra raised her hand and said loudly, "This human has no understanding of our ways. He killed a champion. Yes, but he twisted the law for his own desire. He must be removed, and his bond to the fireblood annulled." Marcus pulled something from his belt and held it high, the recording cube. The lights dimmed as the hologram played Veltra's voice echoed across the chamber, her own words sealing her fate. "If he chooses Zariah, the blood circle will honor the old pact, but if he chooses me, the throne becomes mine." The room went silent. All eyes turned to the Queen Mother. Veltra's face turned pale. Her voice shook. "That was sedative false." "No," said Nyla, stepping forward. "It was from your own quarters, pulled from your own walls." The Queen Mother rose slowly, ancient power glowing around her. Her voice was heavy as stone. "Veltra of House Kier, you are stripped of title, of bond, and of breath." Guards seized her before she could flee. She screamed once, but it was quickly swallowed by silence. Marcus turned to Zariah, then to the crowd. "I didn't come here to be a ruler," he said, "but I won't let anyone else bleed for my freedom. Not her, not her, not anyone again." Zariah took his hand. Nyla did too for a moment. The empire stood still. Then the court began to bow out of law, but out of something rare in Veltra's respect. Later, far above the throne chamber, they stood together on the balcony under the twin moons. Wind moved through Zariah's hair. Nyla stood quiet but content, and Marcus looked out over the alien world that once tried to break him. "They'll come again," he said softly. "Others will try." Zariah nodded. "Then we'll fight again. Together." He smiled, tired but proud, from one duel in the sand to ruling the stars. A strange fate, maybe, but this time it was truly his own.